Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of IK NHL Daily Talk, and it's just I, Kyle, today as Iacob is busy, well, was busy, and then I ended up being busy, and now it's late, and I'm recording this episode all alone, and today I didn't feel like showing my face, and I decided to try recording this a little bit differently on my own, so you guys can feel free to, let me know what you think, of course, and on that note, let's get into our news topics of the day, and the first topic of the day that we have is the Predators actually made a couple trades, one with the Minnesota Wild and one with the Vegas Golden Knights. And by the way, tomorrow one of Iacob or I will make a YouTube short about this, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we would love to hear all of your guys' opinions as well on the trade. So whatever you guys do say about it, let us know. But the first trade, we see the Nashville Predators receive a second round pick from the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Michael McCarron. And if we go over to his elite prospect page, Michael McCarron, who is now obviously a member of the Minnesota Wild here, is a 30-year-old forward who is a big boy, and he is a fourth line center, or has been a fourth line center for the Nashville Predators this season. And he can definitely hold his own. And at a 900K cap hit, which I believe expires at the end of this season, which unfortunately I will not be fact checking that. But ultimately, yeah, it's a good deal. And, only for a second round pick, the Wild, I mean, it might be an overpay on the Wild's part, but they get a very solid defensively responsible forward who has 12 points in 59 games. And as you can see here at the bottom, his pace is 16 through the 79, but yeah, the Wild acquire themselves a Michael McCarron, and yeah, we'll have some further thoughts on that tomorrow. But honestly, with it being late and all, I'm just gonna briefly go over everything. So I apologize if that confuses anyone or whatever. Or obviously, if I miss anything, let us know down below in the comments. But then the second trade that the Nashville Predators made was they traded Cole Smith to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for a third-round pick and a defensive prospect of Christopher Seedoff. And we'll go over Christopher Seedoff's numbers real quick, which he's been with the Milwaukee Admirals for at least part of this season. And he's a 24-year-old Finnish defender who's 6'1", so not a super big guy or anything, but we'll go down to his stats, which in 34 games sorry, not the Milwaukee Admirals because he just joined them, but with Henderson, he has 4 assists in 38 games, so he appears to be more of a shutdown guy than anything, but, not a terrible ad, and I honestly think this is more of just a throw-in piece in this deal. And of course, the the Predators also acquire a third-round pick, but then we're going to move on to Cole Smith's numbers, which now he is a member of the Vegas Golden Knights, which this is the first franchise that he is a part of that is not the Nashville Predators I guess, at the pro North American level. So congrats to him, of course, for joining a new team, and hopefully he'll get to play some good, meaningful playoff hockey. But at age 30, he's 6'3", 194, and kind of the same sort of players, a Michael McCarron, where he is very defensively responsible. And I'll scroll down here, but oh, excuse me. But yeah, he plays for the Chicago Wolves, which I'm not sure if that was the Nashville Predators affiliate team at the time or not, but he played with the Florida Everglades for a little bit. But then ever since, he's been kind of bouncing between the Admirals and then the Preds, and then in 22-23 he made the Preds full-time, where he has been ever since, and now he will be getting to join the Vegas Golden Knights in a new opportunity. But obviously, and in this season, he has 42 games played where he has 6 goals, 4 assists for 10 points, and is a -7, but that is more of a reflection of the team he is a part of rather than his numbers on his own. And then, obviously, with Vegas, we'll see how he does, but he's projected to score another 5 points, which will be another 3 goals and 2 assists before the end of the season. And I think he'll break the trend, but ultimately we'll see. But yeah, ultimately those are the 2 trades that the Predators made, and like I said, Iacob and I will make a short, whether or not, we each do one or one of us does one. We will definitely be covering this trade. But then if I go over to Instagram, I saw a bunch of, trade rumors and players that a lot of people are interested in what's happening around the league. But apparently trade talks between the Buffalo Sabres and the oh my gosh, St. Louis Blues have escalated in terms of a Robert Thomas deal. And I guess apparently This deal for Owen Power, Consta and Jack Quinn was either a starter or, actually a projected package. So who really knows? But I do know that the LA Kings are one of few teams in on a guy like Patrick Laine. And, I mean, ultimately we'll see. And the minions there laughing. That's pretty funny. But apparently Jordan Binnington has, expressed a want, or I guess maybe not a want, but he's ready to move out of St. Louis. And yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with that, but this will be very interesting. Then, of course, Connor Garland, a Canuck, well, one of many Canucks like Pedersen, Myers, Bluger, other guys are in rumors too, but he's projected to go to the New York Islanders, or at least there were serious discussions regarding that, whether or not that will happen. But yeah, ultimately we'll see, but these are some of the trade rumors going around. And yeah, I know that this is Puck Empire, which if you guys have not heard of Puck Empire, which I do not want to, go all the way up top, but go ahead and give them a follow as, oh, I did not mean to click on their story, but yeah, they have, I believe, 199,000 followers, and if you see this page with this logo, please go give it a follow as they do get the news out very quick, and it is very accurate from my experience anyways. But before we fully move on, I would like to quickly go over to another Instagram page, which this is Hockey Forever, and they are also very good in the sense that they have a lot of accurate news, which obviously here's the trade. Apparently the Calgary Flames are very interested in acquiring a guy like, Arbor Xhekaj from the Montreal Canadiens, and we will see where that goes, of course, but I guess there have been some Mike Tyson comparisons for Jack Hughes, which you guys can go ahead and take a look at it by yourselves. JT Miller has been injured and was placed on IR by the Rangers with a upper body injury, so hopefully for him he won't be out too long. But yeah, the Rangers season really has not gone all that well. And I know, as for a little bit more news, obviously Nate Dogg records his fourth straight 100-point season. So today, which by the way, we're going over the scores for yesterday, and that will be of Monday, March 2nd. But as of today, March 3rd, there we go. I got it. He ended up recording his fourth consecutive 100-point season, which is very impressive. Yeah, Pedersen does not feel like himself, and obviously is not happy. And then Kirill Kaprizov, as of today, March 3rd, broke the Minnesota Wild's, I guess, goal-scoring franchise record with his 220th career goal, surpassing Marian Gaborik. And, I mean, he's going to score a lot more. But we will move on to the recaps for today. And I will actually close all these tabs real quick so it'll run better. But our first game from yesterday, we saw the Detroit Red Wings face off against the Nashville Predators. And in this one, we see the Red Wings win 4-2 over the Predators, where they outshoot them 31-30. And then we will move on to your goal scorers, which first goal of the game comes in the first period, just about 5 minutes in, from Emmett Finney, and that would be assisted by Marco Kasper and Mason Appleton. But before the end of the first period, Philip Forsberg on the power play records his 26th of the season, assisted by Luke Evangelista, who in his own right is having an excellent season, and Roman Josi got an assist on this goal as well. But then moving into the second, Jonathan Marchessault, who is a guy that the Predators are actively shopping, puts the Predators up 2-1 to give them their first lead of the night at 7:10 of the second, and that would come on a wrist shot assisted by Ryan O'Reilly, which he is also a guy that could potentially get moved. But then, 2.5 minutes later, or just over, Lucas Raymond ties the game back up for the Red Wings, and that would be assisted by DeBrincat and Andrew Kopp. But Albert Johansson shorthanded, which is not the guy that I would have expected to score, as it is his second of the season. But he would score to put the Red Wings in the lead, and ultimately this would actually stand as the game winner. But that would be assisted by Marco Kasper and Mason Appleton, which no surprise that those guys are penalty killing forwards. And then in the third period, Alex DeBrincat, scores on the empty net, and that would be assisted by Lucas Raymond. But ultimately, he buries it, and he gives the Red Wings the 4-2 lead, and that is where it would stand. And yeah, obviously Johansson scores shorthanded, and he gives the Red Wings the lead, where they rally past the Predators. Defenseman breaks tie in second after Gibson leaves game for Detroit with upper body injury, which we did briefly speak about yesterday. But hopefully John Gibson is not out long term, as he's a big part of this Red Wings team, and he will be very important in their pursuit for the playoffs. But going over to, your 3 stars of the night, Marco Casper with his 2 assists is your first star of the night. Second star of the night, we see UC Saros, albeit he did allow 3, but obviously is good enough as he had a 3.16 goals against average and a 900 save percentage. And then the man who scored the game-winning goal himself, Albert Johansson, is your 3rd star of the night for the Detroit Red Wings. And then going to the box score, obviously I'll scroll down real quick so you guys can see all the stats, but for the Red Wings, we see John Gibson obviously start this game, and I guess he played the entire first period, and he had himself 10 saves on 11 shots for a 909 save percentage, and then Talbot in relief was not bad in his own right, where he saved 18 out of 19 for a 947. And with that, because I already went over the Preds numbers, the season series is complete, and these two teams have tied at the end of it. But actually, I'll just scroll through the Predator stats, which you guys can feel free to take a look. And yeah, we will move on to the next matchup. But excellent game by the Red Wings. And truthfully speaking, I mean, the points are important, and they got the 2 points in this one. And I think this team, albeit, I kind of doubted them earlier in the year, I do think that they could be a legitimate contender. And so far, they're showing that. And I mean, I don't know about going far, but for sure they are a playoff team and will show up this year. But then in our next matchup, which is our second of the day, we see the Blue Jackets beat the Rangers 5-4 in overtime, which they actually got outshot by 4, which the final shots were 33-29 in favor of the Rangers. But the Blue Jackets recover for an OT victory against the Rangers after blowing 4 goals, or I guess a 4-goal lead in the third period, which Marchenko wins it at 104, and Gabe Perreault for the Rangers had 3 points, but we'll recap it further, obviously. Sorry, I'm tired here, guys. So bear with me, but Adam Fantilli opens the scoring for the Blue Jackets, where he would tip in a shot from Kirill Marchenko, and Danton Mateychuk would get the other assist. Kirill Kaprizov, oh my gosh, that is not Kaprizov. Kirill Marchenko on the power play would, make the lead larger with a Ivan Provorov assist and Charlie Coyle, and that would come on the power play, like I already said. Then Sean Monahan, or somewhat early in the second period, scores a shorthanded, unassisted snapshot goal. And then, of course, the Blue Jackets aren't done yet, as Matthew Olivier with his 9th of the season, assisted by Charlie Coyle and Damon Severson, which Coyle's another guy we could potentially see flipped before the deadline, depending on how the Blue Jackets view their season. But yeah, with that, the Blue Jackets go 4-0. Oh man, I wish Iacob was here because I gotta do a lot of talking. But yeah, no, the Blue Jackets after 2 have a 4-0 lead. But going into the third period, this is where the game, kind of gets out of hand, and I guess it kind of gets out of hand for both sides because obviously the Rangers couldn't close it out after this. But Vladislav Gavrikov, just 30 seconds into the period, wrist shots a puck past the Columbus netminder, and he ultimately has the goal assisted by Alexei Lafreniere and Will Cooley. Then, just 24 seconds later, Gabe Perreault, with his 4th of the year, pulls the Rangers to within 2, and they weren't done just yet, as Will Borgen, also with his 4th of the year, which this would be assisted by Gabe Perreault and JT Miller prior to, his injury and going on IR and whatnot, which very unfortunate to see that did happen. But yeah, this would come with just over 7 minutes of game clock time left, and yeah, this would put the Rangers within 1. And then, with actually quite a bit of time to spare, Gabe Perreault ties the game, and Will Borgen, I guess, would get his 2nd point of the night with an assist, and the Roach, Vinny Trocheck, will get the final assist for this one. And yeah, this tied the game, and oh man, I gotta learn how to edit so that I can edit my yawns out and then, correct myself, but that is not happening today. But then in overtime, Kirill Marchenko, just a minute and 4 seconds in, buries a snapshot goal, and that would seal the deal. And Damon Severson and Adam Fantilli got assists on this one. But yeah, moving on to your 3 stars of the game, Kirill Marchenko with 2 goals and an assist is your first star for 3 points. Then Gabe Perreault with the same stat line, 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points, is your second star of the night, and he had an excellent performance. And Charlie Coyle with 2 assists is your third star of the night. And then moving on to your goaltending stats, which you guys can take a look at the Columbus stat line. But Elvis Merzlikins was the netminder for Columbus on this day, and he allowed 4 on 33. Oh man, 4 on 33 shots, and he made 29 saves for an 879 save percentage, which obviously he played past 60 minutes because this game went past regulation. But then moving over to the Rangers, you guys can look at all the stats real quick, and it was Igor Shesterkin who allowed 5 on 29 and had himself an 828 save percentage, and ultimately that would be no bueno, and they lose this one. And actually, the Blue Jackets tied the season series, and it will be decided when the season series will be decided when they meet up one more time on March 19th. And stay tuned for that. But man, the Rangers in this one had quite the comeback, and I mean, the Blue Jackets are lucky to get away with the 2 points in this one. And for a team like the Rangers, they don't really need 2 points as they're kind of right at the basement, and I'd argue tanking and getting no points at all in the standings is maybe their best bet right now, but I guess they don't think so. And yeah, great win by the Blue Jackets, and I'm going to move on without further ado, which in the next matchup, we have the Philadelphia Flyers facing off against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, they visited them, and they won this one 3-2 in the shootout, and yeah, this is a nice win by the Flyers as they desperately need 2 points, but yeah, I guess Noah Cates and the Flyers recover in the shootout to hand the Maple Leafs their 4th straight loss. And then forward, replying to Noah Cates, has 2 points, and Nylander apparently tied it late in the third for Toronto, which apparently Toronto has dropped 10 of 13, which is once again not good. But in the first period, near the end actually, with less than 5 minutes of game clock left, Dakota Joshua would score the first goal for the Leafs and first goal of the game, which actually is really funny because when we were recording the episode yesterday, and I made my prediction of the Flyers winning, which, by the way, they did, and obviously the Leafs scored right as I made that prediction, but I'm still happy that my prediction hit. But that would be assisted by Matias Maccelli, and then before the end of the period, oh man, okay, Christian Dvorak on the power play scores to make it 1-1, and that would be a minute 22 left on the clock in the first, and that would be assisted by Noah Cates and Denver Barkey, who is a very bright young rookie. But we would not see another goal until the third period when Noah Cates, the man of the hour, ends up scoring to make the game 2-1 in favor of the Flyers with just over 5 minutes on the clock in the third, and that would be assisted by Bobby Brink. But like the caption said, Will Nye the hockey guy, with 2.5 minutes left in the third period, ends up recording the game-tying goal for his 20th of the year, assisted by John Tavares and Matthew Nyes. And then going into the shootout, ultimately, the shootout winner would actually be scored by Trevor Zegras, and we all know he is very good in the shootout. And then shot by shot, we can go here, which ultimately the Leafs shot first, and that would be William Nylander who shoots, and he did score. Matvei Michkov then goes, and he also scores. Matthews with a backhand attempt did not score, and Zegras would score what would stand to be the winner, as Max Domi did not score on his shootout attempt either. So for your 3 stars tonight, Noah Cates with a goal and an assist is your first star. Nylander's your second star of the night with his late game-tying goal, and Trevor Zegras with his shootout winner is your third star of the night. And then moving on to the box score, where we can look at goaltending performances. For the Flyers, it was Dan Vladar, and he allowed 2 goals on 31 shots for a .935 save percentage. Man, I need like a yawn counter. That'd be pretty dang good. But I don't know. Maybe we'll watch the video tomorrow and give it a listen and see how many times I actually yawn throughout the episode, and I can leave it in the comment section down below for any of you who might be curious for whatever reason. But moving over to the Toronto Maple Leafs in this one, which the netminder was Anthony Stolarz, who allowed 2 goals on 25 shots, and Adam Silver 920, but they lost in the shootout, so it doesn't matter. But the Leafs, albeit they do lose this one, they still win the season series against the two teams as they win it 2-1. But yeah, your final was 3-2 in favor of the Flyers in the shootout, which, like I said, according to the standings, or if you look at the standings, these teams desperately need points, and the Flyers get the better of the Leafs in this one. But yeah, moving on to the third last game of the day, which sees the Dallas Stars dummy the Vancouver Canucks 6-1, and they outshot them 37-14, which is almost. Actually, yeah, that is almost. Oh wait, give me one sec. Okay, almost triple. There we go. Oh. I guess I'm talking too much as I'm getting tired, but yeah, I guess the Stars score 6 straight and defeat Canucks for franchise record 9th win in a row. And Bichel gets first multi-game for Dallas, and Vancouver skid hits 6, which I'd argue is a good thing. But in the first period, Evander Kane would actually open the scoring for the Vancouver Canucks, and that would come at just under 8 minutes into the first period on a deflection, and Jake DeBrusk and that is Marcus Pettersson. There we go. Sorry. There's too many Petterssons on the Canucks. But before the end of the period, Adam Ernie gets the Stars back in it, and he ties the game at 1 off of a Colin Blackwell assist. But then going into the second period, of course, Liam Bichsel scores his first of the night, which we know he scores a second, and that would come 8 minutes into the period, so just about the halfway mark. And that would be assisted by Ilya Lyubushkin and Sam Steele. And then on the power play, Jason Robertson with his 34th of the year would score to make it 3-1 for Dallas. And that would come even closer to the halfway point, as that was assisted by Matt Duchene and Miro Heiskanen. But then into the third period, Matt Duchene actually scores himself this time with, his 12th goal, because I guess you can't have 12 assists without 12 goals. So, yeah, there you go. He makes it 4-1, and Sam Steele and Miro Heiskanen get the assists. And then Colin Blackwell makes it 5-1 for Dallas. And then, of course, to end off the scoring, Liam Bichsel with his second of the night scores, and he makes it 6-1 for Dallas, assisted by Maverick Bourque and Jason Robertson. But then, your 3 stars of the game, Liam Bichsel with his 2 goals would be your first star of the night. Jason Robertson with a goal and an assist is your second star of the night, and Matt Duchene also with a goal and an assist is your third star of the night. And then moving on to your goaltending performances, we see Jake Onger only faced 14 shots, but he allowed 1, so he made 13 saves for a .926 on the night. And then for the Vancouver Canucks in net, it was Nikita Talipalipalo, and he would allow 6 on 37 for an .838 save percentage, which, yeah, that is no good in this one. And yeah, your final stands in this one at 6-1. And for the Dallas Stars, they end up winning the series in a final of 2-1, which, based off of the recent play of the Canucks, is no surprise. But yeah, I wish I had Iacob for a second opinion, but we will move on. And this would be my second, or I guess the second to last matchup of the day, which sees Joey Daccord make 35 saves, and the Kraken end the Hurricanes' point streak at 12 games, as Kakko and Myers score for the Kraken, and Carolina had won 5 straight and loses in regulation for the first time since January 16th, which is well prior to the Olympic break, which is very impressive. But yeah, moving into your goal scorers, which the first goal doesn't come till the second period, and actually all 3 goals would come in the second, as Kaapo Kakko opens the scoring for the Seattle Kraken, and Adam Larsson would record the assist, and that would come 3 minutes and 22 seconds into the second period. And then Ben Myers would score on a backhand shot 5 minutes after Kakko, and actually this would end up standing as the game winner, and Freddie Gaudreau and Adam Larsson would get an assist on this. But of course, the Carolina Hurricanes never really go away, so Nikolai Ehlers records a goal, and that would be his 16th of the season, assisted by Martinook and Walker. But it was too little, I guess not too late, because obviously it was not too late in this one, but they couldn't get it done. But Joey Daccord, after only allowing one goal on, sorry, I forgot to mention the shots, but it was 2-1 Kraken, and the Hurricanes outshot them 36-15. So Daccord deservingly gets the first star in this one, but he has a 972 save percentage and a 1 goals against average. And then for your second star of the night, Adam Larson gets himself 2 assists and would be your second star. And Capo Caco with his opening goal is your third star of the night. But going over the stats for the Hurricanes, we see Frederik Andersen allowed 2 on 15, and ultimately that means he saved only 13 shots and had himself an 867 save percentage. And then going over the Kraken, we already summarized his numbers, but I'll just scroll through the rest of the team stats. And your season series in this one, with the Kraken winning the second of the 2 matchups on the season, end up taking it 2-1. So, yeah, good win by Seattle, and I mean, I'm expecting a lot from this team. And, well, that's debatable. Maybe I'll elaborate on that more in another episode coming up, but yeah, I'm surprised. I would have expected Carolina to win this one with 36 shots, but they do not. But I'll move on to the last matchup from yesterday. And DJ Smith's first games as Kings coach was spoiled by Devon Toews and the Colorado Avalanche, which Martin Necas, Landeskog each have a goal, and then a goal and 2 assists for Colorado, and then apparently LA is 1-5-1 in their past 7 games, which is not great, but Nathan MacKinnon would open the scoring just 4 minutes and 27 seconds into the first period, with Martin Necas and Gabriel Landeskog assisting, and that would be his league-leading 41st. But Gabriel Landeskog would make this game 2-0 not all that long after, and we would see an assist from Brent Burns and Martin Necas. And then Brandt Clark for the LA Kings before the end of the first, marginalizes the gap and makes it 2-1 in favor of the Avs instead of 2-0, and that would be assisted by Anze Kopitar, who is nearing 1,500 games. But then moving into the second, we only see one goal, and this would be a game-tying goal for the LA Kings by Angus Booth, which I think I can pull up his stats real quick. And yes, I can. And that was actually his NHL debut yesterday, so congrats to the kid in his debut, of course, scoring and tying the game in what was a very big goal at that point, assisted by Brian Dumoulin and Adrian Kempe. But moving into the third period, with less than 5 minutes of game clock remaining, Devon Toews would score to make it, 3-2 in favor of the Avs, and Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar would record assists. And then just to rub a little bit of salt into the wounds, Martin Necas would score on the power play with the LA empty net, and Gabriel Landeskog would record, obviously, his second assist and third point of the night. And, yeah, 2 seconds were on the clock. And, yeah, good win by the, Colorado Avalanche, where they outshot the LA Kings 39-21 and won 4-2. But, yeah, your 3 stars tonight, we saw Anton Forsberg, albeit he allowed 3 goals, still had himself a 921 save percentage, which is pretty impressive as he had over a 3 goals against average. Then MacKinnon with his goal and an assist is your second star of the night, and Devon Toews with his game winner is your third star of the night, and not to mention Martin Necas and Gabriel Landeskog, who each had a goal and 2 assists. But yeah, we'll scroll through your stats real quick, and then of course, Mackenzie Blackwood in this one for the Colorado Avalanche allows 2 on 21 and has himself a 905 save percentage. And then over to the LA Kings side, we'll scroll through the stats. And of course, Forsberg with your first star performance had a 921 as he allowed 3 on 38. And with this win, the Colorado Avalanche sweep the season series 3-0 over the LA Kings. And based off of their play this year, that is no surprise to me, but yeah, congrats to them, and another win, and unfortunately for LA, yeah, DJ Smith cannot get it done, but I'll move on to your schedule for tomorrow, which I will make daily picks, of course, because, well, actually, I can't make any daily picks on this schedule, because technically this schedule is already out, so actually, Iacob and I will make daily picks again tomorrow, and I did not actually grab the picks from yesterday, so I cannot summarize those, because it's kind of late, and I should have watched the episode earlier. And we apologize, whenever we miss this stuff, but it is what it is. But obviously, your starters for March 3rd, which obviously we are. Well, actually, wait, March 3rd. No, March 2nd. Well, we already went over the goalies for yesterday. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm dumb. Okay, March 3rd is correct. So, for the first game on what was today's schedule, we had. Wait, is this the right way to do it? Yeah, it is. Okay. We had the Florida Panthers visiting the New Jersey Devils, where we saw Bobrovsky and Jacob Markstrom for each side, respectively, and that was at 5 p.m. Mountain Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And the next few matches will be at that same time frame, so keep that in mind. But we see the Nashville Predators visit the Columbus Blue Jackets, where it was Justus Ananen and Jet Greaves. And then moving on to the next matchup, we had the Vegas Golden Knights face off against the Buffalo Sabres, and that was Akira Schmid versus Alex Lyon. But then for our next matchup, of course, again at that 5 o'clock time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Karel Vejmelka and Logan Thompson for their respective sides. Then we had Pittsburgh and Boston, and that is your last game at 5 p.m. Mountain Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and that saw Stuart Skinner for the Penguins and Jeremy Swayman for the Boston Bruins. We only have one game at this 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern Time, time slot, and that was Chicago visiting Winnipeg, and we have Spencer Knight versus Connor Hellebuck. Then at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which we have two matchups. In this one, obviously, it was Casey Smith for Dallas and Dustin Wolf for Calgary. And then we have the Ottawa Senators visiting the Edmonton Oilers, and for Ottawa, it was Linus Ullmark, and for Edmonton, it was Connor Ingram. Then we have the Tampa Bay Lightning visiting the Minnesota Wild at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time and 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And the Lightning played Andrei Vasilevsky, and the Minnesota Wild played Philip Gustafsson. And then for your last two matchups of the day, they are at 8 p.m. Mountain Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And in our first one, we have the Colorado Avalanche visiting the Anaheim Ducks, where we saw Scott Wedgwood and Lukas Dostal. And then the Montreal Canadiens visit the San Jose Sharks. And for the Canadiens, it is Jakub Dobeš. And for the Sharks, we see Yaroslav Askarov. And there you have it, folks. That's your schedule for obviously, I guess it's today now. And all the games are done, so I can't make any picks. But yeah, I'm just gonna end this video off as I'm tired. And truthfully speaking, I don't love doing these episodes this late. And I mean, I do enjoy creating content, but yeah, it's definitely rough when you have to record it as late as I am. And I'm tired, so I don't want to be out here, for too long saying a bunch of random stuff. But yeah, thank you all for listening. We will, get to you tomorrow with obviously your updated preview, and hopefully we'll record the episode early enough to be able to make some picks tomorrow. So thank you all for listening. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys hopefully with Iacob tomorrow. Peace out, y'all.